Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach,
And I'm Pepper.
and today we're doing our top 10 games that grew on us. These are games that we maybe didn't initially like or love, and then with more and more plays, we just continue to like more and more. Or at least that's kind of, I think, how all of mine kind of panned out. I don't know exactly what you put for your list, but that's kind of the way I felt about most of mine.
Yes, I would agree. So, I mean, some of them, I think at least one of them has only two plays where it just significantly increased on that second play. So, I don't
Hmm.
know if that's as valid. So, I think that might be the first one that I end up mentioning.
Sounds good. But yeah, in the comments below, let us know what games grew on you, took maybe a few plays before you're like, I actually see what's special about this game now, and I really do enjoy this one. Let us know if you had that experience with any games and what you think of ours. If you agree with us, or if you thought, no, that one I loved immediately, or nope, that one I've played multiple times and I do not understand the love. And subscribe if you want to see other top 10 videos. We're doing several of these that we're filming all kind of together. So I don't know when they'll release. They'll probably release separately, but if you're subscribed, got that bell notification on, hopefully you'll see them when they come out, or they'll be linked below. I don't know. We'll see what Pepper does.
Yes.
But yeah, Pepper, you start with that one that you've played twice.
Yeah, my one that I played twice it's a sequel to a game, and it's a flip and right version of a game, kind of. And I was just like, why do I need this? It's just the same thing, and I'm fine with the original tile placement game, the Isle of Cats. I don't need the Isle of Cats explore and draw. But I played it solo the first time, and I think it shines a little more in the multiplayer version. At least I can't really remember the solo version very well. But
Hmm.
in that multiplayer version where you're never really cut off from some of the cards, it's a really cool system where what is it? You pick a column, I believe,
I
of
think so.
cards, and there's bonuses that you can use to mix them up a little bit with which ones you
Mhm.
take. I really love that. You're getting a lot more per turn than you are in Isle of Cats, and the drawing on the map. Sometimes it can get a little messy, but it,
Mhm.
it, it works pretty well. And there could be a little more variability in the lesson cards, possibly, which this might lack versus the original version. But this is a fantastic way to play the game and to get introduced to the game. And if you do want to don't have a lot of room, this does fill that need for Isle of Cats if you do want to go with a smaller version.
I agree 100%. And I think I actually, right now, as of now, I prefer this over the Isle of Cats, just because, yeah, I actually use the goals in these ones. I
Yeah.
sometimes get some of the goals in the other one, but for some reason, I don't like focusing on both the filling out of the boat and those goals necessarily. Sometimes they're hard to do, and like this one, sometimes you're just kind of forced to take that goal because you really need those
Yeah.
cats there, and
Yeah.
then you can work towards. I feel like these ones to me felt easier to work towards, and I liked it. I played it solo as well. I actually liked it solo. I think it's
Uh,
kind of pretty much the same thing. I don't know that it's much
yeah.
different.
Yeah, I get it.
Um,
Yeah, I played
but
that
yeah,
ago. But
yeah,
yeah,
but
I thought that there was no way that this could even be close to the original version, but I could see it overtaken at some point, possibly now that I have grown on it significantly with one play. But yeah,
mhm.
you could maybe, it's a little harder. It's not just a fixed tile that you can't accidentally draw it the wrong way. So you do have to be a little mindful when you are flipping and
I,
rotating
I
shapes.
agree. Probably the worst part, in my opinion, is the drawing, and then yeah, getting those lines next to each other with the different colored markers and stuff, and accidentally bleeding into those markers potentially is the only thing that I'm like, I don't know that I love that, but
But it's great.
yeah, I
You were
I
right.
really enjoy that
I
one.
was wrong.
Yeah, I was right. I'm always right. And you were right about this one, maybe. I don't remember how you felt about it, but I think initially I did not really enjoy this, or I don't know if enjoy it's the right word, or not enjoying it is the right term, but I did not see it what it could be maybe right away, and maybe I just had a bad experience. Was not playing it as well as I should have. But that is Metro X,
Ooh,
and
nice.
yeah, this one I don't know that I liked right away, and then we've played it quite a few times since then, and I think I've just grown to like it more and more each play. It's one that definitely takes a little bit of planning. I think kind of getting a better understanding of how these cards can actually come out and stuff can definitely help you in your future plays. I think the first games of it can kind of maybe throw you a little bit and get you stuck, and then it's definitely not as satisfying. But
Yeah, for
then
sure.
once you have a better feel of how to actually, approach these, it does get a lot funner, I think.
Yeah, I think so. It does throw you for a loop right away because it just kind of takes some familiar things and handles them in a totally unique way that you're not used to seeing, and you can really make a mess of your board. And even in future games, when you have played it
Hmm.
20
It
times, you
still
can
happens.
still get in those situations. One thing I really love
Yeah, 100%.
is the order that the cards come out and how often they reshuffle can just totally make a different feel for the game. We've had
Hmm.
extremes in both directions. It's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like a couple of those times in a row that we played it, like that reshuffle card was at the very bottom, and it's like you only get like one free space then, which can sometimes be very important. And you're just like, my goodness, these just won't come out, or the skips and stuff,
Mm,
like
yeah,
all those special cards. And yeah, I don't know, it's crazy, but
I think
I have enjoyed it a lot more.
I think after that we introduced it to Mark in Vegas, and then we just kept getting the reshuffle again and again and again.
It's
Crazy.
like, yeah, it's like, wow, this plays a lot differently with that.
We swear it's not always like this. Uh, my next one, let's go with. I got crossed off there. I'll go with one that's it's kind of a weird one because it's a legacy game, and
Hmm.
through a good first few, maybe even half of the game and the story, I was like, this everyone talks about this game being so great, so high on Board Game Geek. And I'm like, it's not that much better than base game Pandemic. Pandemic Legacy 1, what's so special about this one? But then at a certain point in the story, in the game, it just really gets rolling, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is a roller coaster, and things are happening. Terrible, terrible things are happening. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it a little bit more now why people absolutely love this one. I don't know if I'd say this is like miles and miles above. Like this doesn't eliminate base game Pandemic for me. I still love
Mm-hmm.
that, but that I think I'm just a different type of gamer than some where they'll be like, I don't have to play base game Pandemic anymore. I still like playing base game Pandemic, but it is a great. Oh boy, spoilers in there. Probably shouldn't scroll through it.
No, probably
It's a
shouldn't.
great experience.
Yeah, this one was pretty good, and we'll go right into my number nine here. It's shocking that you have Pandemic Legacy Season One on here because for my number nine, I have base game Pandemic,
Wow,
which I think that I can maybe attribute some of the growing on me to Pandemic Legacy Season One.
it's true.
But yeah, like you said, I there are a lot of things in it that are very close, very similar to base game Pandemic, but yeah, I think that just helped me enjoy the game system itself, like forcing me to play it the full
Mm.
4 games because we definitely failed every time. No, and yeah, it's just one that I remember I initially didn't like find it all that appealing, but probably played it in a time where we weren't really playing many cooperative
Mm.
games, if any. Just wasn't the style of game we were into at the time. And I was like, yeah, I don't know that it's as great as Z Garcia is making it out to be. And then I think we might have, I can't remember if we played the base a little bit more, and I was enjoying that once we had kind of maybe played
Oh,
a couple more cooperative games, and I was already starting to like it more. And then we got the uh, Legacy, and that just brought it up even more for me. So I guess you could argue it's kind of a little bit of both of those, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It was. I am glad that it's bumped it up.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because it actually is. I'm not even kidding. I'm not like bringing this down from a higher one. It literally, my number 9 is Pandemic. And at first I was reading it, like, what does that say? It starts with a P. I'm like, I can't remember what that is.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess of multiple and extras written here, so it's a little hard to even see where I am. But yeah, I'll move on from that one. Can't really make another crossover base game Pandemic here for me. I'll go with. I kind of want to group those together, but I won't. This is. No, okay, I'll go with this. I've decided my order. Finally,
I
did
can
not
go. I can
decide.
do my next one if it's this tough for you to figure out. Maybe you can go
I'm gonna
based on what I
go
do.
with a game that we played, and I don't think it really made a big impact on the first play, and was maybe even considered to be being called at a certain point. But then we played it again, and not only did it have a great little action selection, worker placement type aspect to it, but it also had a very quick gameplay time that was just quicker and quicker, it seemed, every time. And feels like it should kind of become a go to game for us at this point, and that is Notre Dame. Not a looker in this version.
No.
But I love those locations where you go to them, and based on how many times you've gone to it before, it gets like Architects of the West Kingdom. It just gets more and more valuable each time you go there. I love that system, and it's just so straightforward and quick to play, like surprisingly quick and approachable game that I don't think we gave that much credit to initially in our first couple plays, but as we've gotten back to it, I'm just like, oh, this just keeps moving up for me.
Yeah, this is a really good choice, and I maybe should have considered this one a little bit more. I don't know that I really thought about this one, but this is one that I would agree with. Yeah, I thought this one would be one for sure called, and then we play it, and it's like, well, that game is not long. It's also very good. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know why this one really should be one that gets played a lot more, and maybe it is partially just the look of the game is like you
Maybe.
said, it's just not. It's not up to that standard necessarily, but maybe someday. I don't know. Maybe there are other versions of it, but this is the version we have. It's not like awful looking. It's just it's Euro-y. It looks like a Euro game that isn't from like these last few years where everything's really starting to get deluxified wooden pieces and everything.
Yeah, yeah. I think there was another country's version that I was like, oh, this looks really nice. I don't remember. Chinese. Yeah, some version. I'm like, oh, that board actually has color.
Yeah, I think we did a list. Did we do that list and put that out?
Need
Of
need a
need
glow
a
up.
need a glow up. I think this one was probably on that
I
list.
think so.
But speaking, I'll go. This is my number 3 probably, but I'll just go to this one because it in a couple ways here, both in same designer and this game got a glow up. This is a game that has grown and grown on me, and the special version of it probably helped. Special edition, and it's Castles of Burgundy. So Stefan Feld is a man that knows how to make a game that grows on you. And yeah, this one I just really love. I don't know if it would probably be quite as loved for me and stuff if I had never purchased the kind of any of the older editions of this game. I just got in when they did this version, and I was debating it because I played it a few times on an app, and then I think one time in person. And I was like, I like it. I don't know, can't tell if I love it because it was runs a little long sometimes,
Yeah.
but yeah, this as I've played it more and more, and now you've got kind of this deluxified feel. It's just like, this is so much fun, and I think Michaela enjoyed it more than I thought she would. I think Abby's enjoyed it. Um, I think everyone in our game group that's kind of played it has really liked it. So it's like it's a good one. It's a good one to bring out, and you can play it at the different player counts. It does get a little longer at 4, but
Yeah.
still very much playable. We don't have quite that
No,
deluxified of a
there's
version,
not
but
any pictures here that are not the all in
we don't have
deluxe.
quite that version. But I
Never.
feel like that might be taking it too far. So yeah, it's still
That's
kind of this. We don't even have the acrylic tiles. Looking at them again, because I think they did another campaign recently. I
mm,
was really debating, but I think they were just a little too costly, and I think the production already looks really great with just their mainly cardboard version with the updated art and everything. So this one's one that is, and we'll see where it ends up on my list this year. Could definitely have a chance at making the top 10. I don't know where
oh,
did it end up last year.
I'm not sure. I am not
Might have
sure.
been top 20 or 30 for me. Go
Uh,
check out our
so
top 60
check
games
it
of
out.
all time last year.
Comment below to remind us where it was.
For all of
Um,
you that remember off the top of your head.
yes. Speaking of top games of all time, this game has become one of my top games of all time. A lot of people's top game of all time, and have actually competed in a tournament for this game in Vegas, and that is Wingspan. It doesn't even come up here. Okay,
Wings.
Wings. This
Good
one,
class.
I didn't know if did I really has it grown on me that much because I remember really thinking it was a solid game on that first gameplay that we had. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of hype, and I get it because this is a great game. But somehow I just remember slowly accepting this is my favorite game of all time. Just finally being like, move aside Dinosaur Island, Wingspan. Wing is king. And I just was like, this is number one. It's no longer number one. I think it dropped a little bit. Just not playing it maybe that much or
Mhm.
whatever. But once we started playing it to prepare for Vegas, again and again and again and again. It's just been proven itself to be one of the most solid, flawless games that I've ever
Mhm. I would agree. I mean, I know I really love this one from the beginning, but I feel like even though I did as much as I did, I think I've just continued to appreciate what it does more and more with more plays. So in a way, it has continued to kind of grow. And having knowledge of, once you play it so many times, I played a lot of times on Board
played.
Game
Yeah.
Arena, you start knowing the cards. You
Yep.
get to the point, even though there are so many of them, you start to know, like, oh yeah, that card does that, that card. And then you kind of like in your immediate like starting hand, some of the games, you're like, okay, do I got any of these birds that I just love
Yeah.
to play?
Yeah.
Whether or not they are the best or not, there's just some that you just end up like, I really just like that ability that one does.
Yeah.
And if I see it in my starting hand, I want to try to get that to somehow work in some plan if possible.
Yeah. That's always like one of my favorite parts of the game. Is just seeing what do I got? What do I got? What's in my hand? What can I build? It's
Mhm.
fantastic.
It's great. Um, yeah, I won't. I could skip to something that could kind of be close, but I'll just go to my next one. My number 8, my actual number 8, and that is a two-player. Well, it is not a two-player game. I always think of this as a two-player game, uh, because it is kind of a smaller game in the same world as a different game,
Okay.
and because of the designer, I always think of this in my mind as a two-player version of Abyss, but I don't. It technically is not. I think it is a four-player game. That is Conspiracy. It's a conspiracy that it's a four-player game. That's for sure. And
Yes.
yeah, this is a game that I think initially I didn't like. I think the first player or two, I was like, I don't know what Jesse sees in this because I mean, it's Bruno, but it's kind of disappointing. And as I've played it more and more, it's like, okay, now that I kind of understand, like I think I was maybe just too focused on one thing at the time, and you
Yeah.
ended up you ended up doing a lot of cool things, and I wasn't really setting myself up to be able to also do those. So I just felt like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. I'm just trying to make this huge set of all the same color or something, and it's just not getting me any points. Or I mean, comparatively, because you're getting your keys and
Yeah.
matching them. But yeah, as I've played it more and more and kind of understood that it's important to get some of those as well to kind of work towards the goal, And for as simple as it is, as few turns as you get, quick as is, you can still try to do some cool things with those cards and get a few more points and stuff. And then kind of, just having those pearls in there, which could kind of feel like just an extra thing, can be very, very important potentially. It can be the game swinger, just getting ahead in those. I just really love this one.
It is. It's fantastic. One of the
A lot
best.
of good things to manage.
Yeah, one of the best filler games out there, I would say.
And I don't hear many people talk about it.
No. Okay, let's continue on with off of my last one. Let's go with another Stonemaier game.
Oh boy.
And this one, the first time we played it was, I believe, on Tabletopia. It must have been released on there a little early, and we played it on there. And I don't think it was that great of a game to do that, because you have to manage piles of
There's
cards.
a lot managing, yeah.
Pick them up and slide one under there and rearrange all kinds of things. So I think we enjoyed it on that play, but it was more like, it's another good one from Stonemaier Games. And that was Red Rising. And ever since then, just thankfully, Michaela absolutely loves the game and has gotten us playing it again and again and again. And when we did Stone Timber and covered all those games, we played this one a bunch there as well. And just kind of like Wingspan, I just start to appreciate it more and more, how fun it is, just trying to get your cards to work together. Another one where I'm just excited to see what's in my starting hand and what I can pair together and what's out on the board, and trying to get those extra cards, and everything's so colorful and beautiful as well. It's a good one.
Yeah, this one was on my short list. It didn't quite make my top 10, but this was one too that I thought has just continued to grow as you understand what cards are in there and whatnot. And I know it gets a lot of grief, and it's like, oh, go play Fantasy Realms. This 0.5 star of a game. And I'm just like, I feel like they might have done what I have currently done with Fantasy Realms. I'm trying to get back to it. That was like a deal at, I think, our Barnes and Noble local one. So I'm like, I gotta give this another chance. People really love it, and I know with Red Rising, it's grown on me. So maybe they've experienced the same thing with that one. But I played that once, and I was like, I do not get this. This is like a 5-minute game where it's just craziness of I can't control anything, and that's what they claim this is. And I'm like, no, it's not. So, yeah, I have felt the same way about this one. Hopefully, maybe play Fantasy Realms a few more times. Maybe I'll feel that same way about that one. But hopefully that does not kill Red Rising for me as well. But just to say that if you have played it once maybe and thought that, like, I'd just rather play Fantasy Realms. Unless you did love Fantasy Realms from the first play, I would suggest, worst part is it probably will take a handful of plays. So if you don't want to dedicate that much time, you don't got it. It probably isn't worth that, but it is a good game.
Oh, it's worth it.
Michaela would be down here giving me a slap in the face if I heard me saying that.
It only takes 45 plays, people.
Only takes 45. Yep. My next one is actually from a publisher that I really enjoy all their games. And I don't know that I ever disliked this one, but I think after the first play I was kind of like, I kind of get this, but at the same time I kind of don't. And I don't know if I feel like this is very common with me for deck builder style games that are slightly different. Not deck building isn't necessarily the focus of the game. And this one's from Garphill Games, and it was on our 10x10 that we played, and it is Viscounts of the West Kingdom. And this was one that during that 10x10 that we did, there were games that as we had to play them 10 times, kind of, I would say, were high up as some of our favorites, and slowly faded, could not hold up to the 10 plays. Whereas in this one was this is just one we wanted to, get to the table a little bit more because we weren't getting it to the table at the time. And it just like as we were playing it, it just got better and better. And I'm like, wow, I really love this game. And now I can see the shedding, getting rid of some cards in your deck, being able to kind of do that, try to get some other better people into your deck to kind of get something really powerful, potentially, get three really good actions of the same type in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just really, really great. And yeah, I've just grown to really, really enjoy this one. And I feel like that could happen with a lot of Garphill games as you play them more and more. I think a lot of them can kind of grow. So it's probably something I have. Paladins for me, I have enjoyed the plays, but I know it's probably the heaviest of the West Kingdom series, so I don't think anyone else in our group really likes to play it quite as much. So it just doesn't get to the table as much. So I kind of wonder if that one would maybe have a similar feel if it would have been on like our 20x5, where it just like kind of continue to grow as you kind of start to see some of the synergies and stuff. But yeah, this one is great.
I'll say that
Rondo. What's
Paladins
that?
is actually on my short list. Paladins.
Oh,
Just kind of similar to Isle of Cats. I've only played that one twice, and
mhm.
first reaction was, I don't like this game. I never need to play this game again. Second reaction was, that's pretty good, which is a huge gap. So probably just with the difference there, probably does deserve to be on the list. But I'm like, it's still not at a place where I'm like, I love this game. So I didn't quite put that there.
Mhm.
But I will cross over in letter with this one. It'll start with a V, and I'll cross over with publisher of my last two games. That is Viticulture Essential Edition. This one I've said many times. It's been a while since I've said it. This is a roller coaster.
Been a while.
Been a while. It's been a roller coaster for me. We played it initially. We played it wrong. We pretty much had to produce twice as many grapes as was required. I remember still liking it.
Yeah, I remember that too. But yeah, we made the what was it, sparkling and whatever wines much much more difficult than they had to be.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, it's 7 white and a 7 red grape to make a 7 sparkling. No, 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 just the sum has to be. So that hurt it initially, but
Yeah.
once you figured out how it was, I'm like, I think that's going to play a lot better. And then I did really like it. Subsequent plays, when we did play it correctly, ooh, everything's upgraded here. That's
I was
pretty
gonna
cool.
say I like these buildings a lot.
That's pretty cool.
I like these. Why did you go to this?
I shouldn't have. Everything's so oh, you gotta go find
That looks
this.
pretty awesome. And then I wouldn't confuse that one wooden building all the time.
That's true.
I confuse some of these ones.
Yeah, we need to track these down. But then I ended up liking it a lot more. I played it solo. I had a horrific solo game where, what was it? I think I only got like 5 points in the game, and the goal was like 25. I kept getting white wine orders. I wasn't as good to get points in other ways. I just wasn't able to get the grape cards, or it might have been vice versa. I needed red and only got white grapes, and I was just like, I can't do anything here. And that shot it down. It plummeted down in my ratings. And that was about the time we got the Tuscany expansion, and it just kept going, and that didn't really revive it. And I'm like, Tuscany's not that great. And while I still think Tuscany's a little overrated, I have grown to appreciate this game more and more just for its core Essential Edition base game viticulture gameplay. I love it. It's a great theme. It's the best farming game out there, like you say.
It is. It's a solid game. And yeah, I guess I don't remember because I know that was a frustrating part. Maybe I didn't love it as much as I remember from the start after those first plays of doing that wrong. But I think I did. It's just worker placement, which is something I do love. So I'm sure I was not like overly disappointed. But yeah, that's a good pick. But then for my next one here, number 7 or 6. It is one in the AT series, and I feel kind of like maybe Garphill games, the ones kind of from Board and Dice and stuff, are sometimes games that can use repeat plays to kind of continue growing on you and understanding some of the things, because a lot of them, especially in the T series, are very tight feeling.
Mm.
And until you are comfortable enough to be able to manage resources and stuff in a way and make the most points out of them, uh, yep, it is a T. It just they can be a little bit more difficult. And this one is Teotihuacan. Uh, is it City of the Gods? Yep.
City of Gods.
I couldn't remember what the little phrase was, but yeah, this was one that I really liked the cover. I liked the kind of building the pyramid style thing in the center of the board. I thought, oh, that'll be cool. You got symbols on there you're trying to match. But then when I played it the first time, I'm like, oh boy, that takes a lot of effort to add to that. That is not, when you're looking at it when I was looking at it, I was imagining like just being able to easily like, oh, I'm going to be placing things on there all the time, going to be matching symbols, getting points, getting bonuses, and it is not that easy to do that. It can be a little bit grindy to get those resources. You're managing this cacao that you're having to pay to take the actions, depending on how many workers are previously there, and having to pay them at the end of each of those eclipse things. And I'll say that is still one of my hardest things to remember. I think most of these plays, almost every time I've played this, have been a 2-player, and it is very, very difficult, whether the first player or second player, to remember that we have to move that down every round. There's just not. If you in the comments below, if you know of a way to easily remember to do that every time, let me know. If you can think of something else outside of just taking your turn and remembering it like a normal person, because I just struggle with that, and it's just very easy to forget. So I'm sure we've given ourselves extra turns before.
Yes.
But as I've played this more and more, being able to manage those resources, I feel like has become easier. I'm more willing to take kind of risks getting down in resources. I feel like in games I usually like to be flush with resources,
Yep.
and that's just not going to happen too much in this game.
Yeah, I could see this one growing for me. I remember the pyramid being a little disappointing that you weren't able to just like, let's throw everything in there, quickly build it up like crazy. But yeah, I could see this one growing for me as well in time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good pick. Oh boy, I think that was the last Stonemaier game that I have on my list. Let's just make sure. I believe so. So let's go to another big publisher that has some games that we really enjoy, some very approachable games, and games that you think it's just going to be easy to jump into, especially when this game is some of our favorite YouTubers' favorite game of all time, Memoir 44. This one we got years ago, and years ago. We got this game for Christmas, and we're so excited to play it. Sam Healy had hyped it up so much for us, and I thought we were just going to be able to jump right into it and get into the awesome battle simulation action and
rolling dice,
yes,
knocking things off the map.
And it was a little harder than that. There were line of sight rules and terrain types that affected how many dice you rolled and advantages and ignoring certain results. And I was like, oh, this is a little more than I was hoping. I thought we could just play it pretty much like a video game and it'd just be so smooth and everything would handle itself.
Right.
Didn't really do that. And then it just never really got going for us. We played it a couple times, liked it, but eventually we got rid of this game. And then we saw it was on Board Game Arena, an online site where you can play board games, and tried it on there. I was still interested in it somehow and tried it on there, and I've really enjoyed my plays on there. And in recent months, this has just kind of been one of the top games on my mind, and wanting to play it more and more, and hoping to possibly get through a bunch of those different scenarios and really get to enjoy this game.
Yeah, I've kind of felt similar with this game. It didn't make my list. It was definitely one that I thought of potentially, because this one has grown on me as well with those plays and that kind of managing some of those things for us that we weren't very good at managing ourselves. But that too was kind of lack of plays. But I think just the excitement had dropped so much that it was hard to want to just picked this one, especially for the amount of games we are blessed to have. It was just hard to be like, yeah, let's take that one off the shelf, which we haven't really enjoyed that much, and force ourselves to try to get more into like, oh, this train does this and that attacks like this and those types of rules. But yeah, this one with Board Game Arena has grown for me as well, and hopefully it'll continue to grow.
Yeah.
But for my number 5, I'm going back to a designer that I've named previously and claimed that other one was a 2-player game, 2-player only game, even though it wasn't. But this one, I will make the claim and stand on it that this is a 2-player game, 2-player only, and it is Seven Wonders Duel. This was one that I think I have a different feeling than maybe Pepper did, and I haven't gotten to play Seven Wonders as much since I initially played it a couple times. But I really love Seven Wonders, I remember loving it. It's been a long time. Maybe if I played it now, I don't know how I would feel about it, but I know I enjoyed it, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll like Seven Wonders Duel. It'll just be more approachable 2-player game. And I was like, I don't know that I really love I don't know, just the way it worked as much. I think I was just expecting more out of it. So I was like, it seems like more of a pain trying to set myself up and stuff. And some of the victories at the time after the first play or two felt like, I don't know that I could ever win that way. And then I probably went on a break of not playing it. And I feel like I've played it a few times then throughout the years, and each of those times I think I'd enjoyed it more than I originally did. And then kind of I think it was this last year or earlier this year, I don't remember when it was. There was supposed to be a Seven Wonders Duel tournament at my local game store, and I ended up being the only one that signed up, so they did not actually end up having it. But I practiced on Board Game Arena and played it a ton, and every time I played it, I was like, God, this is a great game. I love this game, and it's been a while. I played a lot in that little span of time, and haven't gone back to it as much recently, but I probably should. It's been a while, so I probably wouldn't be as clean. But I felt like I was getting actually pretty good at potentially being able to win in all those different ways. So, yeah, it was just a lot of fun. And then the shoot the moon strategies. Now that I kind of have a better feel of how you could potentially get those, have been like, yeah, I would just wish more games had this kind of thing. Simpler games like this had that kind of thing, because I feel like maybe some heavy strategy games might have something like that, but it's just like then you have to kind of know from the beginning that you're going to try to do that. Not to say that you don't kind of have to have a little bit of a plan. You probably can't go into the third round and all of a sudden completely change, but you don't necessarily. It just kind of, you can see kind of how the first round goes and then go from there, type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I grown to love this one.
On to, we're in the top 3 now.
Technically, I gave my third one, so I've got a 4.
You did. Now you got like your 9th left over, or whatever. My third one, I will say you are right again. Well, I guess not. Maybe not fully right.
I'm always right.
Yeah, you are. This is a game that you absolutely loved from the start, and I liked it, and you said it was better than another game, and I kind of dug in my heels and defended the Isle of Cats as being always and forever better than Planet Unknown. And while I don't know which one I prefer, I will say that this one has gotten pretty darn close with my more and more plays. And I'm like, I could prefer it to Isle of Cats. It is possible. It's a possibility that I'm accepting now, where I did not earlier on. This one is just a fantastic, quick, awesome polyomino game with variable powers. It's super approachable, it's super quick, and can be super variable depending on your map and your corporation.
Yeah, 100%. It ended up being everything I had hoped it was going to be, and more probably. And yeah, I think Isle of Cats is still pretty good. I give it a little bit of a hard time, especially ever since we got this one, because I'm like, oh boy, this is just so much better in my opinion. But Isle of Cats is still good. This one feels much easier in getting the tiles. Where that one, it's a little bit more work. Can be a little bit lucky, depending if you can get some extra permanent baskets. If you get them and your opponents don't, it
Yeah.
feels like a pretty heavy disadvantage. But whereas this one, everyone's getting tiles every time. Just a matter of what you're gonna have options of if you're not the one picking.
Yes.
This one's really good game. Trying to remember what your initial thoughts were on it.
I think I always liked it, but now I'm just like, oh, this is. And now it's on Board Game Arena, and
It is
it's not even a premium game, so I can just solo that baby
to death.
That's then hate it.
And this one's got an expansion, hopefully coming sometime, I think, this year. So we'll see if that changes anything up. I don't remember what that has on. I think you're adding a smaller little moon board or something. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays into the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a lot of fun. And then my next one here, which is actually my number 4, is a game that I was really hoping that I would love initially, and played it, and I was like, huh, I think I like what it's doing, but it doesn't reward me for being as efficient with my moves necessarily as I can be. And the game may or may not be in the background above my head now, well, different version of it, all of it, and that is Everdell. This is, with it being kind of a tableau game, I was like, I like that, especially with a lot of different cards and then cards that kind of have some synergies of kind of connecting off of each other. You can kind of get free cards if you have the place where that animal stays or something. You get the fairgrounds. You can, well, in this case, you wouldn't get the fool, but you get to put the fool in someone else's, which
Yeah.
probably like the one card I don't really love in the game. I don't know. It's filling up someone else's slot and giving them -2 points. I'd rather benefit myself than hurt someone else, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Am I right? But yeah, this was one that, yeah, the first, I think I like was able to fill up my city in the first game I played of it, but I was just like, the resources feel tight, and I don't know if I just ended up getting kind of the wrong types or wasn't necessarily quick enough at getting some of the things to make it feel like it was really getting an engine going type thing. And yeah, I was kind of disappointed, deflated about it. And then, yeah, as I've played it more and more, I still have that issue. I do still have the issue of maybe sometimes being more efficient in certain ways than I should be, or getting kind of putting the wrong cards into your kind of area because it's a limited area, which is a little unique. I don't know. I mean, there are those constraints on other games, but this one, it just feels much more obvious that there is the constraint. And then you get to the 15 cards and you're like, well, these aren't really that many points. I didn't get many of the purple ones because I was focused on getting these green ones that were going to give me some, re-trigger multiple times. And then I got too many of them and they're not worth a lot of points. So managing that has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed the different expansions that I've tried so far. I need to explore those in this game even more and more with all the new content and stuff. I have not explored as much as I should, but I am expecting to continue to love this one more and more and figure out exactly what pieces of the expansions and content I want to actually have in my games of it.
Yeah. I have not gotten past that initial part where I'm like, I don't quite understand how to pace myself in this game. And I've had a couple better games and I like it, but I could see this one growing for me as well. But now that it's got that giant, intimidating, complete collection box, I don't know if I'm gonna be playing it that much.
Now you've just got all the different characters to choose from. I will say I don't know that might. I like that it holds everything and it looks nice, but it kind of probably does hurt the taking it out because it's like 2,500 pounds and it's impossible to get off that top shelf. I'm surprised that the shelf has not collapsed in upon itself with that massive thing on there.
Yeah. I'm gonna do my. Would this be? think I might have a crossover of my 2 and your 1. So I do not want to prematurely spoil your number 1. So maybe it's not your number 1. If you don't think it's your number 1, then
Could be, but I don't
you
know.
think it'd be your number 2.
I don't think either of these would be on your list, but
You
maybe.
don't think either? Well, okay, I'll go in order. This is a game that we got, obviously, and we played it. And initially, I was pretty hyped. I was more hyped for this game than you were. And on first play, it was all right. It's a battling game. And it had a few unique characters. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. These 4 characters, Dracula, Invisible Man, they all have their unique thing, but gameplay wise, it might not be for us. And then we added a little more unmatched to our game, and more characters and more characters, and it snowballed, and we owned almost everything that there is for unmatched now at this point, and I absolutely love it. It's just, I mean, it's the best. I think my favorite combat system, my favorite dueling kind of battling game, trying to take out someone's health points, which we don't have a lot in our games. That's not what we do very often. So it's crazy that we do love this one as much as we do. And the artwork's phenomenal. Every character, some feel similar and some feel more cool than others, but there's so much variety.
Yeah, that's true. And this one, it didn't make my list, but it definitely could have. I don't know. In my head, I mean, it does seem to continue to grow on me, even though in my head I kind of like feel like after 2 games I was like definitely way more excited about it. But it probably wasn't fully true. Just thinking back, that's how I imagine it. And I think with the more characters and more plays, it has also grown on me. This one could have definitely been on my list.
Yeah.
Because I did feel similar. I definitely after the first play, I was not like immediately sold on it. So
yeah, I think you did catch on quite a bit quicker than I did. I think it took another maybe year or so until I was like, okay, I'm in on this.
and we've got a huge unmatched tournament if you want to go back and watch a bunch of unmatched play. Bad unmatched play, obviously.
It's terrible, terrible.
Yes. We got the old T-Rexer, which we actually may or may not have 2 sets of, but we'll get to that later. If you want to see a T-Rex on T-Rex unmatched, let us know in the comments below, and we will have to film one. But then we get into my number 2, which is from a publisher that you have several games on this list.
Who could it be?
And it is not a match on any of those games that you said. It's a Stonemaier game, and it is one that we were very intimidated by. Never did get right away because it seemed like too much. And I think after the first play, I was like, definitely wasn't too much, but it was like I don't know if I love it or not. Just because I think this is a game that, as you play it more and more, you get better and better at it. And that aside, and it's I don't know. I just feel like I remember not like immediately falling in love with it when I was hoping that it could be, because I think at that time we had like Wingspan and Tapestry, right?
I believe
Viticulture,
so.
which have been at the top of my list, even though Viticulture and Wingspan took you a little bit longer to come around on or to really love. Those ones I all kind of immediately loved. So I was like, oh yeah, Stonemaier anything, and this is the granddaddy of them all, the one that everyone really loves. So I'm like, as long as it's not too much. And then I think some of the kind of movement rules and stuff, especially across rivers and stuff, I think some of the rules were just maybe a little bit much still at the time, or they just felt a little bit, I don't know, like it was stopping me from doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But then as I played it more and more, played through the Rise of Fenris campaign, I'm just like, I just love this game and think about what I could have done to do better and stuff after the fact. And you're trying to be pretty efficient with this game. This one maybe could suffer from that as well. If you want to do a little bit of everything, you don't really necessarily have the time to do that. I guess you technically could, but then you won't get as many stars possibly, and those can be pretty big going into the end of the game. And yeah, I I really love this one now, and probably haven't played it as much as I'd like to, but
Yeah.
yeah, this one's pretty good.
Nah, maybe this is the next Stonemaier game that I'm gonna grow to love.
Yes, that's why I was like, I don't think Pepper's fully come around on this one yet.
I haven't played it very much, under
Yeah.
5 times, I'd say. And my number one, I'd say I might have been as against this game as I am to Terraforming Mars right now. At one point, it was that big, intimidating game that I didn't really have that much interest, even though you really loved it. And again, you were right as always, and so is pretty much everyone, because this is very highly rated on Board Game Geek. It's a classic. Terraforming Mars. This one, I played it once, and I'm like, oh, that was a big hand of cards. That was a lot of thinking, and what ones I'm going to play, what ones I'm going to trash. Oh my goodness. I ended up actually scoring, maybe getting halfway around the track, and I'm like, that was pretty good. I moved that little sugar cube a good amount of spaces, but I don't know if this is going to be for me. And then I think that's kind of the first time it really moved for me, is when you wanted to train for the World Series of Board Gaming in Vegas. You were going to be playing this one and needed some sparring partners. And I was lucky enough to be one of them, and it just really grew on me, and I got to understand it and get to know the cards, like you kind of say with some of these games, and get comfortable with the game. And I just grew to really, really love this. And the cherry on top was winning a little thing in Vegas to get to play the game with Stephen Bonacore. And that was a great time as well. And just really, really solidified it as one of my favorites of all time. So this is in my top 50. And I would have probably never thought that it would be.
Yeah, that's true. And I think with those repeated plays, this one, I really loved it after that first play, but I think there is a continual growth of additional love for it as you do or see the cards and see how you can kind of use some together, or hope that you'll end up getting some of those later on in the game. Yeah, this one's awesome. This one's an awesome game. I'm glad you've grown to enjoy it a little bit more. And you trained me, you beat me down too hard. I was not able to find any success in Vegas.
Yeah, you were very, I think, yeah, I did beat you up quite a bit, I think.
You did, but then actually, to be fair, the person that took me out in the game, well, it was a 4-player game, but the person that won that game ended up winning the whole tournament for
They knew.
And went on to win the following year. So they're back-to-back Terraforming Mars champions. So
they knew
that says something.
Once they beat you, that was the biggest hurdle they'd ever have to leap.
Really, that's really what it was. He looked at me after the game, and he was like, I got to shake your hand. That was the best game of Terraforming Mars I've ever seen played, even though I just whooped you by like 40 points. I think all 3 of the rest of us were within a point of each other, and he was like 30, 40 points ahead. Like, oh boy. It was probably my fault, to be fair, because I was one of the people sitting next to him, and I probably allowed him to have some cards that he shouldn't have had, but that is not the way I've ever played Terraforming Mars. I understand it's a competition, so you should play it differently, but then all of a sudden, if I'm blocking him, I'm helping the one person then that never has to pass to him, and just depending on how you're doing it, I'd rather help myself.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Good pick. And I've got also a very, very popular game, and this is why I don't know how you feel about this one either. I don't think that this one's nearly up there as high.
It's in the top 100.
It is in the top 100. It's in the top 10, actually. So it's actually right next to your game. And this was one that I was really hoping, another one that I was hoping to enjoy, and is going to be a top game for me. heard all these great things about it, and then I played it, and kind of like that. I don't know, the deck building like as part of the game sometimes just doesn't work for me immediately, like this and Lost Ruins of Arnak and uh, Viscounts that I mentioned earlier.
Mm.
It just didn't. I was like, I don't see how this even works or how these flow together and whatnot. And it's, I don't know. And then I've played this one more and more, and usually do play it, end up at 3 or 4 player count, which I think the first time I played it was at 2,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that whatever person that you're
AI.
using, House Hagel or whatever, I don't know if that's the greatest uh, way to play it. Because when the times I've played it, especially at 4 and stuff, the max player count, I'm like, oh, this game is always so tight, and the points at the end, and you're just like, I gotta just claw my way to that one extra point to get to 10. And then sometimes if you don't do it, you're like, I gotta do it this turn, I gotta do it this turn, because otherwise, all of a sudden, I'm letting these other people back into the game potentially, and you miss that turn,
Mm.
and it's like, well, now I just let them all back in, and now I'm in a bad position. It's a great game. Cards, once you kind of understand what some cards like, oh, if you have another one of these, it'll trigger and stuff. Having an idea of what the makeup of that deck is definitely helps it. Like a lot of deck builders,
Yeah.
I think knowing some of that stuff, which I know there's probably people out there that look at these things ahead of time and are like, okay, what can I possibly, be looking to try to do here? Uh, I usually like to just be surprised and see what kind of cards can pop up. And uh, yeah, with more plays and more plays, this one becomes better and better. And now they've even had like a Dune Uprising, Imperium Uprising. I'm curious on
Okay.
that. I'm curious of the
Tell me
expansions.
how
I don't know.
this has not been re-implemented. Are you kidding me? There should be a link right there for a Dune Imperium Uprising, but apparently that has nothing to do with this.
It's a
Yeah,
completely different game.
I like this one. I could see this growing if I got some more plays. I think it's the race aspect is perfect in this one. Sometimes it can feel a little too quick or maybe too slow in some games, but those 10 points are just perfectly difficult, perfect amount of difficulty and reward when you do get
I agree. I agree 100%. So, yeah, that is our top 10 growing games that we've grown to love. I think all of them are probably ones that could easily be in our top games of all time. And yeah, ended on a couple top rated ones that people would
them.
argue immediately they knew these were great games. I don't know what took you guys so long. Uh, and yeah, let us know in the comments below if you had similar feels with any of these games or if there are any other ones, like I said, that have grown for you, grown on you. Any of the maybe top games that you're like, actually, that needed a few more plays. Let us know. Otherwise, subscribe to see more videos from us if you would like that. Otherwise, give us a big old thumbs down if you're like, I watched this whole hour plus long video and I hated every second of it. But otherwise, we appreciate you guys and hope to see you on our other videos. As always, don't forget to keep on nibbling on our content.